Well, welcome back. This is Stocks to Watch as we get further insights into Angkor Resources, advancing oil, copper, and gold projects in Cambodia, trading on the TSXV under ANK and the OTCQB under ANKOF. We are privileged to be joined by Delayne Weeks, the CEO. First and foremost, welcome.
Thanks so much, Kyle. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure getting you back on. So I just want to dive into this. Why is the onshore Block VIII such a high priority for Angkor Resources?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Well, ultimately, this onshore oil and gas would be the first in the country. So they're importing, spending billions annually to import all their hydrocarbon energy. So you can imagine if we can discover and produce their own domestic supply. So it will change the country. And because of the nature of that industry, there's also long-term secondary industries, midstream industries, and downstream industries that come out of that, and they're not short-lived. It's long, 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 decades and decades and decades. So national economic benefit, change the country, and there's a whole variety of jobs and skill set that go along with the industry. So that's a big boost to a developing country like Cambodia.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
ultimately, for us, we can take an energy play and turn it into cash flow much, much quicker than, let's say, we can on the minerals. Because we have a 30-year production sharing agreement, it's fully permitted. So that means we can accelerate things as we wish to and move and advance much quicker. Therefore, it's a game changer, not just for the company, but also for the country. So that's why, I mean, it's right up there, priority number one, get this done.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the insight on that. And I wouldn't mind speaking a little bit to the seismic that was undertaken and the results from the seismic to date.
Well, ultimately, we were more than pleased with the seismic. I was concerned that they were going to come back and say, okay, we've done the 2D, now we need to go do 3D in these locations. But right off the bat, the first prospect was South Bokor. That's where the first seismic was done. And our geoscientists came back and said, they called it a thing of beauty. And of course, I went, well, what does that mean, thing of beauty? And they said, look, we've got four-way closure. We've got a really large, it was 48 square kilometers. It's an anticline. Anticlines produce 80% of the world's oil. They said this is a very simple structure. What we don't know is what's the depth and what's the reservoir rock like. So again, so far we've got announced yesterday was the third prospect. And so we've got South Bokor, Central Bokor, and now North Bokor, all of which are separate subbasins and all of which are now solid drill targets.
Yeah, and moving forward, can you kind of speak to the scope out and just the timeline and the goals over the coming 12 months and just give us a forward-looking idea of what you guys are doing?
Sure. So first and foremost, we need to finish the seismic interpretation. We need to complete the whole package because that also impacts additional funders that come in on it. So we need the package finished. That's going to take us till probably the end of December. Then we move into, we'll have to do environmental assessments on each drill prospect or drill target, I should say, and then put that in front of the Ministry of Environment for approval. That's going to take us to the end of April. Meanwhile, we'll also be designing each drill hole. That's going to take engineering, to figure out what pipes, what pumps, what type of coring materials you need. And that generally will take 3 to 6 months. So let's say we start the same time we're doing the EIAs. That's going to take it till the end of June. Now we're looking at importing Cambodia's first drilling rig. That doesn't happen in a week. It takes some time. We'll have researched it out. So we're into July, August. Do we really want to drill in the height of the rainy season? No, we don't. So I think by the time we get all the engineering done and whatnot, we're probably looking at the latter part of 2026 to drill it. And then I hope to party. Then I hope to say, okay, let's celebrate this. And we've got some tremendous news.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any concerns about the geopolitical risks of the government kind of taking the resource once you have kind of proven out the commercial oil?
Kyle, that's a really good question. And And I appreciate you asking that because I think so often people shy away from some of those difficult questions. The really easy answer is no. We have no concerns. And here's why. Number one, this is the first in the country. And although they have people in government that have really high academic knowledge about oil and gas, we know you have to have people on the ground that make it happen. And Cambodia is just not there. It's a brand new industry. Nobody knows about anything from, our downhole or the multilaterals at this time. So if they took it away, who would do it? So that's number one. And I think the other thing is this first discovery is going to result in an explosion of development because oil isn't found in one particular hole on one particular prospect on one particular license. If there's oil in the country, there's oil in the country, and it will probably be in other formations elsewhere. So I would anticipate the government would be both thrilled to see that and also building out capacity for the entire country to get other interests and other parties into it. And I think thirdly, and this was, in discussion with other colleagues that had asked the question as well and said, nationalizing an industry is not consistent with what we have seen the government do to date. I can't name an industry where they've gone in and nationalized it. What they don't want the risk, they want the revenue. And they don't want the liability. Again, they want the asset. So it just isn't, it just doesn't line up. And we actually approached them to say, hey, do you want to, because my husband had done this in North Africa, in Libya, to say, you want to nationalize your industry? We can help you do that. So if we were 40 or 50 years down the road and had multiple plays across the country that we're producing, it might be a more meaningful question and response kind of debate back and forth at that time. But no, we don't have any concerns about that. They want their own energy. They need it. And ultimately, we're the ones at the table. So why would they take that away from us and risk losing any future foreign investment towards their own domestic oil?
Yeah, and you kind of spoke to it a little bit here already, but maybe diving a bit deeper, what do you see as the impact on drilling and discovering commercial energy for Cambodia?
I think for the country, it's such a game changer, Kyle. It's this massive, and we've looked at, I mean, we actually use the Western Canadian to say, okay, before oil, after oil, what happened here? It's a tremendous number of jobs that come from developing an oil industry. And there's so suddenly an area that might have had a lot of unemployment. Everybody has a job if they want to go to work, and they're well-paying jobs, and they get on-the-job training, and it develops an entire new skill set for a new industry in a new sector in the country. So big opportunities for economic development. And of course, from our company perspective, impact, well, if we do the simple math and we're 55 million Canadian as a market cap, even hitting one of these and using a real small minimum number of recoverable barrels, it's a 10 times multiple just on that. And forget about the copper, the gold, the production in Canada. So I think it has potential for major impact, and it's all positive. Even for when I go back to Cambodia, I think of what happens when mom and dad have work, and we've watched this for 15 years. They send their kids to school. They don't bring them out to the fields to help they send them to school. So everything boosts up. Education, healthcare, employment, economic development. It's hard to find a downside. And finally, I want to drive this home for anyone that is saying, oh, fossil fuels are, we take, and Cambodia is going to come out with the benefit of this. They're going to come right out of the gate with the best practices across the globe. Emission control, low carbon footprint, multiple uses, companion crops with any, whether it's production water that's been bioleached or, so we've got all sorts of expertise that the rest of the world has spent, 150 years developing, poof, we can put that all together and implement it in Cambodia. So yeah, I think there's a great upside here, and it truly will be. It will be a country maker. It will be something, if you want to talk about a thing of beauty, that result I expect will be what I would call there's the thing of beauty.
On that, Delayne, we'll pass it off to the viewer as always. We'd love to know what you think in that comment section. Consider subscribing as news and catalysts come down the wire. We'll bring it to you here. And if you want to, discover the company further, we'll leave the links in the description. But on that, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.
Thank you so much, Kyle.